hiphop.com.
Yeah, holy smokes, I'm no joke out the bullpen. Bringing nothing but heat, leave you hanging like clothespins. He's a beast when he goes in, ice cold frozen. The first round draft pick, number one chosen. Drop bombs, explosion, self-promotion. And I keep shit moving like a flanker in motion. I'm the number one spokesman, it's my devotion. That I'm dedicated to the rhyme is my own notion. Brown water's the potion, it put hair on your chest. Or you can put one in the air and it'll put you to rest. Sweet dreams, I'm about to fade. I got my mind on my money and I'm dreaming about getting this all paid. Mr. Go-Getter, Mr. Assertive, Mr. Initiative, Mr. Results, man, I'm all about my business, kid. Damn.
On a suddenly not so casual Thursday afternoon in September 7th, 2023, it is NFL Week 1, the kickoff special show. 207 days removed since the last Super Bowl. A long summer, a beautiful fall awaits. It is the Shark and the Gun. The Odds Fellow will be with us on Sunday afternoon. Welcome to the show, everybody. We are beyond hyped. Guns Picks, what's going on this afternoon, my brother?
It's time for a little NFL action, and I am ready tonight. We have Detroit. We have the KC Chiefs off a banner Super Bowl year. I am ready to start this off properly with game one, and then we'll hit a full slate here on Sunday morning. I can't wait. Let's get this to it. I'm ready to drink some beers. Let's go.
Agreed. And a lot to discuss in this game. Obviously, incredibly intriguing. Some injuries early and late, a holdout from Chris Jones. And we're going to start the conversation with the total. I dropped this on July 20th. I'm going to throw it to the Gun first. Guns has disagreement. Conversation wins in this life. Guns Picks, what's going on with this total? Why are you thinking the under?
Listen, it's not my favorite play of the week. I'll tell you that much. I'm going to have some bigger plays this week, but we have to have a little bit of action here on this beautiful Thursday night. Let's talk about these two teams, where they come from, okay? You have KC coming off a banner year, winning the Super Bowl in dramatic fashion, I would say. But actually look at what their stats say from a perspective of against the spread. 4-5 against the spread at home last season, but they started the season 0-5, okay? They lose their key weapons on the wide receiver ends. They lose Juju Smith-Schuster, they lose Hardman, and they don't really have a lot of good replacement for that. But then again, you have Pat Mahomes, right? So it's almost like that dynamic with going with Tom Brady method, right? You don't need the wide receivers, you just need the quarterback, right? So when you lose and also they lose their OC on this one. They lose their longtime wide OC in Eric Bieniemy. Replace him with Matt Nagy. I don't know what the offense is going to look like with Matt Nagy in the offense, but we'll see how that goes there. Then you got Detroit coming off a starting the season 1-6 straight up, and then finishing 8-2 straight up. They were a darling for us last year. If you actually watched the show, we were backing them in a lot of circumstances last year. Excluding their running back core, they lose Swift, they lose Jamal Williams. They do add a solid running back in Jahmyr Gibbs that comes from Alabama. And longtime vet David Montgomery. So they kind of reloaded, replenished, and the wide receiver core looks great. So the way I'm looking at this total is I'm looking at KC at home versus what Detroit did away in 2002. And then Shark will give the counterpoint on that one. Average total on this one for KC at home, 45 points per game. On the road, they were 58 points per game on the road. Now, I'm talking about two teams in the total here. Their run game is much worse on the road as well. They average 4 yards per carry at home versus 5.1 yards per carry on the road. KC's regression on the road in the run game at home is kind of a benefit to what Detroit does defensively, because they're terrible at stopping the run, especially in 2022. They gave up 5.2 yards per carry, 4.8 yards per carry on the road, however. So we'll see if KC does do anything in the run game, or they just go into the pass, especially with Kelsey. Looks like he's going to be out for this game. Detroit on the road, also got to look at them. 44 points per game, 58 on the road, 58 points per game at home. So there's a little bit of yin and yang there as far as away versus home splits. Their offensive production also dropped 68 yards per game, and their net yard average drops here, minus 42 net yard average on the road last season. All right. So here's a few trends here for you if you like the trends. So KC's team total overs at home last season, actually the last 12 home games, 1-11. So look at that there. So if we're going to get the over here, we're going to need KC to score, right? Because, I mean, I think they're going to be the driver as far as what this total is concerned. Also, KC at 7-2 to the under as home favorites. And you have Detroit here hit the under 60% of the time versus non-conference opponents last season and 57.1% to the under as an away dog. So that is their run here. Plus, you got to look at the factor Jared Goff hasn't played a single snap all preseason. So that there's going to be a little bit rust there early in the game. I probably like the first half under as well in this one. I did get the under here at 53. And, you know, if this over is going to hit, I think it'll probably hit in the second half. But I'm going to be taking the total here, full game under for 1 unit. And let's focus a little bit more aggression into Sunday versus Thursday.
Yeah, jumping off, and obviously we will be live Sunday morning at a special time, 9 a.m. and 3 top plays minimum dropping for all of us. So get big cards ready for Week 1 NFL. But staying in the center and staying in the course here on a suddenly not so casual Thirsty Thursday, my top play dropped in the summer. Opposite of Guns, a lot of complexity, as Guns said, might come later. Let's talk about it. I'm on a 54 2 units. You can get that now at 52.5 due to Travis Kelce not being in the lineup because of a bone bruise earlier this week in practice. Probably could have gone in any sort of playoff scenario for sure, but he is out of the lineup for the first time since his rookie year. 10 years ago it was. And let's talk about what happened last year. It is the template we have to jump off of. Guns mentioned it. I'm going to go into some complex detail now. And last year on the road, the Detroit Lions were 4-4 versus the over. But I think we have to really go into the X's and O's and the matchup analysis. Outside of the division, they were 2-3 versus the over, but it was very, very opponent specific in terms of the quality of the team's defense. And I have this graded versus defensive DVOA, a very specific metric created by Football Outsiders. 3 really low-scoring games, a shutout at New England on October 9th, 29-0, a real dud at Dallas the following week on the road, 2 weeks later off a bye in between, 24-6, way under, and at the New York Jets, a 20-17, really low-scoring Leatherhead win. Crucial point, the DVOA for those 3 teams on defense, all top 5 in the league. Number 3, number 2, and number 5. Their other 2 road games outside of the division, both over at the New York Giants and at the Carolina Panthers, 31-18 over 45, 37-23 over 44.5. Crucial point, defensive DVOA. Giants, number 28. Carolina, -20 or number 24. And then you go to Kansas City. Kansas City, number 22. Take Chris Jones off the roster tonight. This team will regress into that range, 24-25. This is where you should expect to see points. Crucial point in terms of the line for Detroit last year on the road. Their highest line last year was 50.5. This opened 3 points higher than any game they played on the road last year. Books are expecting a lot more points. Go to the Kansas City side of this game. As Guns mentioned, this team has clustered unders at home. I saw that as well, and I said, let's see if I can find some sort of reasoning why. And what I did find is what I really do like to find, as we've discussed in a lot of these college football totals dating back the last 2 weeks, outlierish stuff. And you go through 5 specific outside of the division home games last year. Kansas City was 5-0 versus the under. Clean sweep versus the under last year in this spot. One really specific one that does come to the forefront of this conversation. It was the same line number as you're seeing tonight, 53.5 against Buffalo on October 16th. The game did finish 24-20, but it was an insane outlier. There were 830 total yards in the game. The first 5 drives featured a Josh Allen fumble in the red zone, a Patrick Mahomes interception in the red zone, a field goal, a touchdown, and another 4 and out from Buffalo in the red zone. Go through this in slightly more detail. A couple weeks later against Tennessee, real dud game, 20-17 in overtime. Somehow that game had 728 yards of offense. including 499 by the Chiefs, and they only scored 17 points in regulation. Outlier, game against Jacksonville, 27-17, under 50, 801 yards of offense. Chiefs with 3 turnovers. Again, somehow went under, and zoom into their 2 home games last year against NFC opponents. It really is the polar opposite of what you're finding tonight with the Detroit Lions. They played the Rams at home on November 27th. Super low scoring game, 26-10. At that point in the year, the Rams had really cratered down, just nothing left in the tank. They were playing really off the street quarterback, Bryce Perkins, who was a convert wide receiver running back coming out of Virginia, unsigned. Just an absolute dud that has nothing to do with the offensive quality Detroit will put in here tonight. And on Christmas Eve, 12-24-22 against Seattle, 24-10, a complete dud again. Geno Smith and the boys actually dominated the game. They had 35 minutes of possession versus only 25 for Kansas City and only mustered 10 points. Again, makes no sense. Couple more points on this as we're discussing only one game here. Kansas City had 6 total games last year against the NFC. As I mentioned, 2 home duds, but very case specific to the opponent type and offensive quality. The other 4 games were all extremely high scoring. 44-21 at Arizona, 41-31 at Tampa Bay, 44-23 at San Francisco, and the Super Bowl against Philadelphia, 38-35. One specific corollary, as I mentioned, I correlated the defensive DVOA for Detroit against the Giants and Carolina versus Kansas City tonight. If we go back to last year, the only time Kansas City played a home game against a team in the bottom 4 in defensive DVOA, it was divisional Las Vegas Raiders, number 31 DVOA. It was a primetime game as well, which I think is specific to tonight. 30-29, over 50.5. Detroit was number 28 in defensive DVOA last year. I'm expecting points early and often tonight. As Guns mentioned, you might see heavy run game tonight. I think both defenses are going to be wide open for business. Last time these teams played, it was Patrick Mahomes' first year as a starter in 2019 versus Matthew Stafford on the road. Almost 900 yards in that game, 64 points. A lot going on here. That's why I have it for 2 units. Official on over 54. Guns picks, throwing it to you. Let's talk about the side for a minute. Any angles on Detroit or Kansas City here on this number? Now hovering right around 4.5.
Yeah, I think the numbers kind of passed me now. I think with the Travis Kelce news that he's going to be out for this game, I think it's going to drive the number down past the point. If I had to lean on this one early, if we were talking about, betting this Wednesday early or something like that, where the number was at 6.5, I'd probably lean towards the Detroit side. I just think that Detroit is a little bit highly motivated going on the road to go play this team that just won a Super Bowl. And if you know anything about KC historically, they're just very slow starters. Actually, I think if you actually look at the statistics, I heard this today on either the radio or one of the podcasts I was listening to. 18-36, and don't quote me on that number against the spread. Patrick Mahomes is as a favorite of 3.5 points or more. So I think that was kind of like that little sweet spot that you can actually take advantage of statistical analytics there. And plus, even look at last year, is like they started the season 0-5 against the spread last season, and they won the Super Bowl. So it doesn't really matter what the spread is. They're getting the W's. Unfortunately, they're not getting the covers. And really, it has a lot to do with the books really hitting the lines perfectly for Kansas City, knowing that Kansas City, from a public perspective, a lot of people are going to be backing them in most circumstances. So lean here. If I had to lean, I'd probably just stick anything above 3.5 to 4. I'd probably lean on Detroit, but I'm not going to play this game. I'm more focused on the total. And you know what? As I'm talking this out in my head, I'm thinking I'm probably going to put 1 unit here on Detroit, KC under first half, and probably going to see a little bit more scoring in the second half versus the first half, first game of the season. And of course, you have a lot of guys that didn't play in the preseason, so a little bit of rush factor in there. And of course, you're looking at Patrick Mahomes getting used to a new-ish core of wide receivers and no Kelce. This may hurt him early and make adjustments in the second half.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree with that. And obviously, you watch a lot of games, both college and NFL. The first quarter tends to be a very low scoring quarter. Obviously, field position is not great, usually off the opening kick. Teams really get in there. And as Guns mentioned, defenses do wear down because of the physicality of 60 minutes. The line is actually suggesting less points here in the opening half. A lot of books are holding this down low, around 26.5, 25.5, steamed up, which oftentimes is trying to encourage more public action, thinking they have access to the over on a lower line while also overpaying. I do think that if this is going to stay under, it will stay under early and explode late, as Guns suggested, which is also just symptomatic to professional football games in general. The fourth quarter can be absolutely wild scoring the football. And one final point on the game ATS side, again, not officially on this, but Guns makes a great point. Kansas City, ever since they really started getting graded at these heavy lines, championship lines at home, they have been incredibly, incredibly ineffective. And as he mentioned last year, very ineffective at home as a favorite throughout their calendar. Their only two covers actually did come those two games I mentioned against the NFC West, against Bryce Perkins and the Rams, not representative of truly anything. And they did cover that by a hook, a 15.5 line, 26-10. Talk about robotic stuff from the Vegas algorithms there to be able to grade a guy coming off the street at a hook line at the champs. Just ridiculous stuff. And obviously, Geno Smith, as I mentioned, only scoring 10 points in a game that Seattle actually did dominate possession and yardage. Just bizarre stuff there. This is definitely a Detroit line. It's definitely short. I think there's a lot of sharp minds on Detroit here tonight. Personally, didn't really want to merge a side and a total. A lot going on there. You have to counter root for all sorts of stuff. Can be chaotic. But I do think that Detroit is the sharp look here tonight. So a lot going on in this game with 17 minutes in the books. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Sharky Waters Nation, 9 Words Lifestyle, Ride the Wave Out of the Water. Brand new YouTube channel. This is where we're building from the source now for these shows. Really, the beginning is now in the next, hopefully, 50 to 75 years of content for us. We have big aspirations. We appreciate you guys immensely. Please follow, like, and share this channel as well. Obviously, the chat is much more active, and we can't see your chat on Twitter, actually, when we're on here on StreamYard. So it is important you come to the YouTube chat. And my top play, 2-unit special, over 54. Fully discussed numbers and narratives. Guns on the under first half and the under for the game. Guns picks, a pleasure. As always, tomorrow night we'll be on here. Knowledge for college. Tons of plays, tons of conversation, hype, and analysis. Guns, always a pleasure doing work. Close them out with some words, and let's dominate.
If there is, I'm going to point to the camera right now. If there is a must tune in, it's tomorrow night, Friday night, to talk about Shark of the Gun knowledge for college. It is the most. Hold on, as my phone's going off. Sorry about that. All right. You have to tune in tomorrow night. There we go. Throw my phone away. All right. Because I'm going to have a rant that is going to be absolutely epic tomorrow. And you need to be a part of it. It's going to be one of my plays. It's going to be Friday night. So tune in. And that's why you need to like and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, baby, because that's when you're going to know when we go live. All right. So let's enjoy the games. And also, we're going to be back on Sunday with another NFL show. We're going to do that 9 a.m., 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So go check out that. And just support us, baby. That's all we're going to look for. We're going to make you some money this week. Listen, the Sharks carried the load last week in college football. 5-1 last week. 1-1 is like we're going to be cooking all the way through the season. Thanks for joining us for this show. Let's dominate the board tonight and have ourselves a damn Thursday. And as always, let's keep dancing. Bang.